I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand it? What the hell is wrong with you people?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the SilentPunt Podcast with your hosts, Henny and Travis. How you doing?
Back.
How
Right, I'm
back,
fired up.
baby?
Fired up for this podcast.
Sweet. I have this week's gasser. No,
Oh,
I have this week's sticker. Sorry, you have the
thank you.
gasser. We've already
Yeah,
screwed up.
yeah, all right.
I'm actually it's a co sticker this week. The first one is to the Ukraine. In case you're wondering, there's still a war going on over there. And I just read last week that in the last couple of months, this is probably not a nice sticker, but they've killed 50,000 Russians invading their.
Jeez.
Does
Okay,
that
all right.
number not
We've
boggle your mind?
we've 50,000 dead Russians is crazy. Let's go back historically and look at like the amount of deaths per war. That's crazy. As I get older, for those of our younger audience, the two of you that are under the age of like 30, as you get older, there's a weird skew towards your interest in like ancient wars. So just preparing you for that. 50,000. I don't know. That seems astronomical to me. So, like for example, the recent wars that we've been in, we've not lost anywhere near that number. Like first of all, losing one person, if that's your kid, is fucking
Right.
awful. So, but wow, yeah, no, that's surprising. That's a high number.
Yeah, I read that and I was just shocked. Um, this is a much more uplifting sticker. Women's ice hockey in the Olympics.
Dude, we rock. There's no one that can even come close to us in women's ice hockey, which is so women's sports like team sports is crazy to me. It's like, why are we so great at team sports? It's like, well, there's a lot of countries out there that don't let women play sports. So, although like my mom tells stories of, she was a very good basketball player in Iowa in the 1950s. And what you don't know about women's sports in the 1950s is not like that. It wasn't like a big thing. So basketball, maybe I may be educating Henny here.
Did she play in
Let's
squares?
Okay. So how many players were on the court at the same time in girls basketball in the 1950s?
I'm going to say 10 because I know for a long time they were not allowed to play offense and defense. They stood on one side of the court or the other.
Right, it was 12. You're close, and you're right with that. So you either played defense or offense. So my mom played her entire career not taking a single shot at the basket because she was good at defense. But yes, anyway, back to your point you made 12 minutes ago. We're just so much better at sports because we live in a society where we, although depending on the day, value women. In sports for sure, because of legislation that went into effect a long time ago, we just dominate women's sports in some sports, in the Olympics, but in others not. Like some of the downhill, alpine sports like skiing, cross country skiing. It's not like we dominate those, but team sports we seem to do pretty good at.
Yeah, and my whole point in giving them the sticker was I was somewhere this weekend and there was a hockey game on a TV. I was at an establishment and I'm watching the hockey game and I'm just fully engrossed in the hockey game. It was really entertaining. And then, like 5 or 6 minutes in, I realized, oh, this is women's hockey. Like they have hair coming out of their thing. If I were to watch, not to trash on the WNBA, but like in 10 seconds, I'm going to know that's a WNBA game. I legitimately did not know this was a women's ice hockey game. That's how fast they were moving, and you can say what you want about equality and men's and women's, but it's like watching an NBA game is much more entertaining than watching a WNBA game because the athletes are so much better. That's what took me by surprise by women's ice hockey. I was like, wow, this looks. I thought they were like NHL guys.
I saw a clip from the Olympics of this female doing something with a puck that if I spent then 10 hours a day for the next 10 years of my life, I would never be able to do. And she did it like she just rolled out of bed and did it. And I was like, holy crap, that's one of the most things on ice. Like anybody who has never been on ice skates, just please like go out on ice skates and then just imagine playing a sport on ice where you're going like 30 miles an hour backwards and you've got to try to play. It's like, I don't know why I don't watch more ice hockey. Like I just started getting into it this year because my kid, my oldest son played ice hockey and he got into it because a neighbor of ours like played ice hockey and never grew up with it. I didn't understand it. And I used to wake him up before 4 a.m. because the youngest kids get the crappiest ice time just to kind of find out if you're really committed. We would play games before 5 a.m. Like throw the puck down before 5 a.m., an hour away that we would have to drive to. And they're like, all right, we're going to find out if you like hockey because that's the ice times that you get. And it was like, he liked it, but wasn't in love with it and never kind of turned around to it. The travel ice hockey parents, that's like another podcast. We should probably do that. I'll have to tell you a story about that. But he kind of fell out of love with it, but he really does enjoy it. And I started following hockey more this year. This is the most I've ever followed hockey in my life. It's incredible. Like it's just such a great sport. And the fact that it's not more popular is kind of crazy to me.
For me personally, it doesn't translate tremendously to television and watching it on TV because any hockey game I've ever been to, whether it's like youth or college or professional, I've loved watching all of it live and in person. But on television, I think it loses something.
It's the best sport live you can watch. It's not. There's not a debate on that. And
it just goes and go like it's like soccer but with more action.
And it's so intense. Like, do you know how long shifts are? Oh my, this is going to spend the whole friggin' podcast on this. Do you know how long an average NHL shift is? A shift is dudes go on the ice and they come off. How many seconds is an average NHL?
I'm going to guess 90 seconds.
It is 90 seconds. Like that's how you go and you sprint for 90 seconds and you're so exhausted. You have to come off the ice. And you don't appreciate that on TV until you watch it in person and you watch girls or guys come off the ice and it's just like so intense. It's incredible.
I know we're talking about Winter Olympics, but I'll leave on this. I would say the same thing about wrestling. I always thought wrestling growing up, I'm like, it's a 90-second period or two minutes for 3 times or whatever. And then I had to take wrestling in college because I was a PE major and I had to do it. And it was the longest either 90 seconds or 2 minutes of my life. I'm like, oh my God, this is so long.
Yeah. Easily the most conditioned athletes are wrestlers or cross-country skiers. Like there's been a lot of that recently. Like, do you know what the resting heart rate of a cross-country Olympic skier is?
12?
It's not far from that. So they're typically in the 30s. So for old fat dudes like me and Henny, although he's not fat, I'm fat. Like when you wake up in the morning and your resting heart rate is like 65, like that's how efficient your cardiovascular system is. Like your heart rate has to beat 65 times a minute in order to get the job done. A Olympic cross-country skier is probably somewhere between 20 and 35. Like their cardiovascular system is so much more efficient than normal people walking around that's how many times. So it's, yeah, wrestlers and cross-country skiers are like cardiovascularly like nuts.
We haven't even got to the gasser yet. You're up to the gasser.
Yeah, that goes to Pam Bondi. Oh my God, I can't even like watch this stuff anymore. Like I don't understand. Our entire judicial and government system is so effed right now. Like it doesn't even follow the normal rules of a courtroom or a deposition. Or have you ever been? You've probably never been in a deposition. Like it's frightening. Like like there's recording, there's a lawyer, they're like chewing you out from like the inside, and it is terrifying. And this woman just gets to like say nothing in front of I've lost complete, and I have no idea what is going on with our government. in that there are no rules that need to be followed anymore, and everything is just a shit show. And I don't even know where to go from here. But she is completely dissolving my trust in humanity, and I think I'm going to go move to Alaska. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, and it trickles down too. Like people don't think they have to follow rules.
No, no one. You don't have to follow them. You don't have to follow them anymore because the most important person on the effing planet shows you that you don't.
Right.
Rules don't apply to anybody anymore, and I friggin' see it in like normal society now.
Right. I think everybody does.
Where do we go from here? Like,
We were boarding a plane today, and we were maybe 4 rows past first class, walking in, and there was a lady in our row. So it was the three of us, my wife, our daughter, and me, that needed to go in that row. And for some reason, she was in the row trying to put her bag above her in our row with a full plane of empty seats behind her where somewhere she had to sit. And we sat there for a good 2 minutes or so while she fiddled with stuff, and the entire plane behind us waiting to get on. And Kim said a couple of nice things initially to try to like, do you need help with that? Would you like us to whatever? And finally she's like, you're holding up the entire plane, right? And the lady laughed out loud. She's like, the whole plane? And I don't typically say anything, but I'm like, yeah, they're all right there. We can't move forward because you're trying to put your stuff, first of all, where it doesn't belong. You're in our seat and nobody can move. And you have no impetus to go faster.
there's no longer a concept for we're all in this together.
Yeah.
It's I'm in this for me. And
Yeah.
the only thing that matters is the outcomes that I can achieve through whatever I say or do. And it is effing scary.
Yeah, and we made like eye contact with everybody around us, and there's a lot of empathy, but that's another problem with America is we don't like call out bullshit when bullshit is happening, and they're all like, "Yeah, she's an idiot." But all right, on that end, this is like old man 101, but topic number one. All right, so you're later stage Gen X than I, but we're both Gen X. And when we grew up, listen to your parents, you listen to your teachers, you listen to your coaches, you did what you were asked to do, thinking that at some point, I'm in charge. People are going to have to listen to me. You do it this way and you move up and blah, blah, blah. I don't think it works that way anymore because I feel like now, at the age that we're in, we're being asked to acquiesce to, you're a business owner. You don't tell your employees, hey, this is how it works, and you're going to do it that way because I told you how to do it. You make it a little bit nicer and you frame it in the way that a millennial, a Gen Z, or whatever can take it. I feel like we got screwed.
Like, did we though? Or did we have the advantage of seeing a proper path? I always tell my kids, there's a system that we live in. I have a kid right now that is in his freshman year of college, and he's like, why do I gotta go to college? Like, am I really learning anything? Can't I just open up this business that I want to open up now? And in some ways, I'm like, hey man, there's like a certain system that we have, and you've got to kind of live within inside that system. And a lot of times you're going to be frustrated by the system, but we have to kind of play within the rules of that. So in some ways, I'm like, hey man, just finish your 4-year degree. There's a lot of things you're going to learn in the process of going to school for 4 years that is not around the corner from my house. that is beneficial. And really, I think you and I would say, you know, a majority of the things that we learned in college were not learned in the classroom. There's not a lot of things that I'm applying to what I do on a daily basis that I learned in Texter Hall. So I think there's some value in that. Although I do see his point of like, hey man, can I give you like 3 or 4 books? And if you read them and knew them inside and out, would that be more valuable than a 4-year degree from a university when you're applying it to starting and opening up a business? I think I would agree with that. But it is kind of a balance of both of those two worlds, the worlds that we used to live in and the world that our kids live in now, where it's like, hey man, I can chat GPT this, I can, you know, learn, I can watch a couple videos on YouTube and I can kind of get to that spot. But I think there's some danger in not going through the process that we went through in order to be functioning members of society. What say you?
Well, I say a lot in my brain, but I'm just thinking about it as a teacher and as an educator, how I was raised and taught how to do that, and was around and currently around as well, like teachers and coaches that weren't raised in that regard. And I don't think it's better. Like what you're talking about with your son, that's one thing. Like, yeah, if you want to own a business, any entrepreneur will say, if you want to own a business or be an entrepreneur, you need to just do it. And you're going to fail and you're going to fail and you're going to fail. And you have to figure out ways to earn money and all of that to start the next one. But to actually be in a profession, whether it's teaching or law or, you know, something where there are lines where you need to know how to do this. I think there's a lack of attention to detail with that, with our generation, because or the next generation, because you can just chat GPT it and you can just this. Like there's something to be said for paying your due. I'm sure it's not this way in if you're going to medical school or to law school or whatever, but a lot of these professions and kids in general, I think, just want things handed to them, where you actually have to like be in it and learn the minutia of it and be underneath someone and do what you're told to do and listen and produce and not just get what you want.
I think there's a separation between what you're saying is licensed professionals. So all the things that you said there have a licensure process. And part of that is bureaucratic, and there's some of it that I would push back against, but part of it is good because at some point you don't want your cardiologist to have ChatGPT'd how to become a cardiologist. You have to go through an accredited program, which is what happens in my profession and in your profession. You have to go and get a license, which means you have to get continuing education. And there's issues with how that is achieved every 2 years in Pennsylvania. But I think there's some issue or disconnect with if you don't know exactly what you want to be, a barber, a physical therapist, a teacher, and there's not a clear path for you, the rest of that, like if you don't know what you want to do, the cost and issues with higher education, I'm kind of pushing back against. If you want to open up your own plumbing, I mean, I said no, open up your own plumbing business, but even in plumbing, there's licensure that is involved that has to do with safety and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you're an apprentice and you learn this is how I do this job.
Mhm.
And that's still most of the trades, you still have to pay your dues and learn that, because if you don't do that, you're going to ruin people's homes.
Yeah, and I don't think kids are interested in that because they've seen, hey, I watch this guy on YouTube and he makes a living doing stupid videos. and that looks way easier than what I'm currently doing. But the sustainability of that and the success rate of that is extremely low. I think that's what they don't see. So yeah, it's gonna. I mean, our children are not fully formed humans. So it's like, to me, this is like Choose Your Own Adventure book, which also dates us. But it was like, I don't know what it's going to end up happening to these kids. Part of that is exciting. Part of that is like terrifying. I'm just trying to help them find something that you and I have found, where it's like a profession that we committed to, that we loved doing, that had negative aspects to it as well. It wasn't all amazing, but it was like something I think both you and I would say was somewhat of a calling. Like, we were chosen to kind of do this profession, and feel lucky to have had that as part of our life. And I don't know what my kids are gonna do.
Yeah, we were
at this
having
point.
that discussion this weekend, and talking about majors and what she wants to do, what she's thinking about. And a couple of the things she's like, well, AI is going to eat that up, and that's not going to be here in 4 or 5 years. And, to a certain extent, we had to deal with that as well. Like, you're always trying to guess what the next thing is going to be. But, and this is a very low bar, but I coached college football for 20 plus years, and in numerous parts of the country, in numerous states. And at certain points where I was coaching, kids wanted to be teachers because it was stable and you could find a job and you could do that. And at other points, it was like, well, the teaching profession is saturated right now and I can't go into it. And most of the time, it was just kids being narrow-minded because they wanted a teaching job in their hometown, and their hometown was small and whatnot. But my answer was always, well, if you love it and that's what you want to be, go study to be it. And if you have to be a teacher in Alaska or Arizona or Mexico or whatever, you can be a teacher. And I do think that that's harder now, like to find something that you love, that you think you can have a career at, I think might be harder.
I mean, we see it inside of our profession. So in physical therapy, outpatient ortho physical therapy, like you hurt your back, your knee, your shoulder, going into that, it's the lowest paid sector of physical therapy. So I've had tons of students, kids that have been worked in my office for years, gone out to PT school and come back, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna do ortho outpatient, and they're like, yeah, you know what? I could go work in a nursing home, and I go in at 8 and I get out at 4. And yeah, it's not what I signed up to do, but they pay me better and the schedule's pretty dope, so I'm gonna do that. And I'm just like, and I don't, if that's like if that's the decision you made, there's nothing against that. But there are very few people that are in the business of having a profession. Like, I closely identify with being a physical therapist. You closely identify with being a coach, even though you haven't done that in a few years. Like, if someone asks you, hey, what did you do with your life? You coached. What did I do with my life? I was a physical therapist. I don't even really do the actual physical therapy stuff all that much anymore, but I will always identify with that because this is what I felt was my calling. And I don't think there's that. I don't think people, kids, think the same way that we did.
Yeah, which is kind of sad.
I would agree.
All right, topic 2 on that wonderful note. What book are you reading, or books?
Oh boy, golly, I'm swamped right now.
Work
I have
wise?
not picked up. I haven't picked up a paper book in a while. I'm still trying to get through. Oh my God! Remember that the last time you asked me this, I was talking about the guy that ran the 4-minute mile, and you know what? I was on a plane reading that book, and I effing left it on the plane, and I
Oh,
don't have I had markings in it. I wrote notes in it. I'm so upset about leaving it on the plane that I haven't gone back to it. How about you? What book
a
are you reading?
hard copy book, and you left it on the
Yes,
plane, and you had notes
I
and
know.
everything.
I didn't know how I did it. I didn't know I think it like snuck into the. I don't freaking know. Anyway, what are you reading?
Well, I'm reading. You remember the song "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald"?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody our age and 20 years older, maybe 15 years younger, know it. Um, well, I was leaving somewhere on a trip in the last couple of months, and I had plenty of books. We've talked about this before. I packed plenty of books, but you're in a airport and there's a bookstore, so you start looking around. Anyway, I found this book from somebody that I really like, John Bacon. He's an author. You remember when Rich Rodriguez was the head coach at University of Michigan?
Yes, Rich Rod.
John Bacon wrote an awesome book called Three and Out. Rich Rod only got 3 years at Michigan as the head coach. And if you think you know anything about football or coaching football, you should read that book because it would blow your mind. It was absolutely outstanding. That's the last book that I had. That's the last time I had even heard his name. And anyway, I found this book. It's called The Gales of November. It's a quote from the song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, about the Edmund Fitzgerald. And so far, it's an awesome book, and I'm enjoying it very much.
Wow, I can't tell you the last time I thought about Rich Rod, but I might have to pick up that book now.
It's outstanding. The sailing and boats on the Great Lakes of Michigan, that's like the first third of the book so far is about that, is insane.
I think unless you've lived near the Great Lakes, you don't understand, one, how big they are, and two, historically how important they were for like travel. Like you're just like, oh, there's like these lakes. I've been to lakes. Like unless you've
And
stood on the shores.
that's like a lot of what the book is about, like just what it
Yeah.
did to American industry. My last job coaching was on literally on Lake Michigan. Our campus was there, and there's a lot of stories about how big the Great Lakes are, but this was my favorite. We had someone that worked at the university, and they had a couple of South Korean girls that were on campus students, but they were working for them, and they could not get wrapped around their head that this was a lake and not an ocean because it's just that.
Yeah, when you stand on any of the Great Lakes and look out, there's no difference between that and an ocean, aside from maybe what you're standing in. But yeah, unless you've like physically seen that, it's hard to explain to somebody.
Well, he made them. He didn't make them, but they went down to the shoreline, and they went and tasted the water, and was like, "Oh yeah, that's not an ocean." That's what
That's great.
convinced them. All right, topic 3. Why is horse racing still a thing?
Horse racing in the mid 1900s was maybe like the third, if not the second most popular sport behind baseball. Have you ever watched horse racing live?
Live, no.
So you've never gone to Saratoga or a large horse racing venue. I'm trying to think of how I would.
Is it like ice hockey?
No, it's definitely not.
Well, I just mean in terms of watching it live. We were just talking about that.
Is it? It's definitely more okay as a live sport. It's definitely more exciting live, but it is an odd mix of extremely rich people and extremely not rich people thinking that they're going to be rich that day.
Kind of like
Yeah, it's a
Vegas in a nutshell.
yeah, I guess so. But it's the only reason I'm really into, I'm not really into horse racing, but I can appreciate horse racing is because my stepfather-in-law was always really big into horse racing. And I remember we sat down one day when I was in my 20s, and he was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And he pulled out old newspapers and books, like like books for the year. They would come out with horse racing, like a book for the year on all the horses that are going to be like in the spring. So if anybody that follows horse racing, there's the Triple Crown, and there's a calendar, and it's just like, okay, here are the 2-year-olds that are coming out this year, and all of the genetics and all of this. Like, it's an amazing equation of if you could sit down and figure out, kind of similar to today. So it was actually ahead of its time. Analytics has taken over every sport there is. So everybody thinks that they can figure out how to bet on any kind of sport because they have all of these numbers. So that's what horse racing was in like the 1900s. Like, you could get all this data, and if you were smart enough and you knew the right, turf that they were running and the food that they were eating and the bloodlines that they came from, like, you could figure it out. If you could just know like one little thing, an edge that someone didn't have, then you were going to make a ton of money. And you thought that going to the racetrack. Now, if you go to a racetrack, it's beautiful. There's amazing food. There's, like, if you have the right seats, it's really incredible to watch. The animals are amazing. Like, a thoroughbred horse is one of the most incredible animals you will ever physically touch in your life. And to watch those horses go around is truly incredible. And probably I'm a little bit biased because I grew up on a dairy farm with large animals and whatever. That probably skews my opinion a little bit. But for me, I still enjoy that. But I agree. I have no idea why anybody who we have given birth to would ever have any interest in horse racing. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, when we first moved to Wisconsin, there was still a very big dog track here where people did the same thing with dogs that they did with horses. And for some reason recently, I'm like, it's the same thing. And the only reason we don't race dogs anymore is because we love dogs so much, and dogs live in our houses. But I know people that love horses the way they love dogs, and I know how smart horses are. It just made me think, like, why are we still doing this? It doesn't seem appropriate.
Okay, well, there's a book. Oh, shoot. That's the next book I should read. There's a guy that he's in the Pacific Northwest. He writes books about sports. And he has wrote a recent book about how in 50 years, football is not going to be a thing. If I said that to you, would you believe that?
Well, what's funny is one of the book ideas I have and have worked on a little bit is like football, yay or nay? Because there's a lot of really awesome things about football, and there's a lot of really unsustainable things about football. But anyway, horse racing.
So he's like, it's kind of falling out of popularity with the main public. But sports kind of run their course over a very long period of time. The Romans used to have a sport where everybody would gather and two people would get into an arena and they would kill each other. So that kind of like ran out of favor. We don't do that anymore. Now, that was a very long time ago. It's a longer period of time, but it is interesting to see how kind of sports, like sustaining sport success and popularity is harder than you might think over a very long period of time. So I think I probably agree with you in that. In why is horse racing a thing now? I can still see it's kind of on the tail end of what's happening. I don't know enough about the economics of horse racing. There's a ton of money in horse racing, so that might be what sustains it. But yeah, if you told me in 20 or 30 years horse racing would not be a thing, I don't know that I would argue with you. I think that might be happening.
Well, like football, there's a ton of money in football, and another thing I've been working on, and we'll leave it at this and then move on to topic 4, but like team sports in general do not go back to the Romans and prehistoric times. Like team sports are late 1800s, United Kingdom, America, teaching young men how, because of the Industrial Revolution and how boys were raised, team sports became implemented at that time to teach them how to learn and follow directions because they were being taught by women at school as opposed to dad on the farm. But topic number 4. Tell me a problem you're having right now, Travis. Not at work, life in general.
Well, we don't say problems, we say challenges. Problem has a negative connotation. What is a challenge I'm having right now? I would say I'm challenged to find out what my second oldest, my 19-year-old, is going to do with the rest of his life. That's a challenge for me. I'm challenged in that I have the opportunity to help him out a ton with what I think he wants to do, but also I feel like if I do help him out, he's never going to figure it out on his own. If I make him figure it out on his own, I probably will push him further away from me. So that might be what happened to me. I don't live around my parents like you. You don't live around your parents. And my relationship would be different if I lived in the same town as my parents. I don't know if I want that for my child, but I don't know if he's going to grow up without doing that. So I'm stuck in the middle of trying to help him out as much as I could versus letting him figure it out on his own. How about you?
Well, before we go to me, that's amazing because at the beginning, and we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but we talked about Gen X and how we were raised and how we grew up. There's no way in God's creation that had I asked your dad this, whatever, 15, 30, whatever, years ago, he would have had that answer.
Yeah, I guess it was a kind of a different perspective. I guess you'd have to ask him about it, but
No, go to school or come and work for me and take over the farm. You have 2 choices.
yeah, that was an easy choice.
But I'm saying I don't think what you're thinking about and concerned about never even entered his mind.
No.
But
So
we're
is that
having to make
good or?
those decisions about how we communicate with our children because of some of the stuff you just said, which I think is super challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, the more advanced I mean, I love how people say, "Oh, this is a really difficult time. This is very hard." Things are like my kids say this. Like my kids tell me, "I'm never going to be able to buy a house." That's a freaking pipe dream. Like I'm never going to make enough money to buy a house. That's crazy. Yet, if you go back like 100 years from now, and people could see how we live now, they would be like, "Oh my God, this is incredible! Like this is like pure paradise." There's on your worst day, it could not be as challenging to live in society as it was 100 years ago in the people's, like maybe, okay, let's say 200 years ago. The people that were living the top 1% of
You don't even have to,
200,
you don't have to go to 200 years. 100 is funny.
it would be like, holy crap, the oligarchs of 100 years ago would love to live in like the upper middle class where we live. Like there's so many comforts and advantages of that. And I think I'm very thankful that I grew up in a place and you grew up in the same place where it's like, you know what? Ain't gonna be nothing handed to us. there's
But
nothing
also we
around
had a
here.
very, we were close enough to people from an era where, the Depression, that they didn't have anything, that I think we appreciated a little bit more of it. Like it's very hard for kids today to know all of those things that you're talking about: air conditioning, cable, a phone, cars, food at the grocery store, all those things. that they've never had to do without, never heard about doing without, um, to understand how different it is to live as those things are just givens.
So I guess we can't get too upset with them because they haven't seen the other side of it. That's what I kind of, I guess, struggle with. But yeah, it's an interesting challenge to solve for. I would think.
Yeah. I have an answer about how you solve that, but it's not going to be tug on your heartstrings. It's going to be
Oh,
absolutely awful. So,
oh my God, we're gonna lose more listeners. Like we're up to 12, so I don't want to go down to 10. But
well, I
okay, go
mean,
for it.
great tragedy allows you to appreciate what you have, and America has not struggled a whole lot in the grand scheme of things recently.
Yeah, I guess it depends on who you talk to. I mean, the struggle now, it seems, is the struggle of prosperity. Like, the suicide rate in third world countries,
It's probably nil.
it's zero, nothing, zero. Because if you're just constantly worried about, like, okay, I've got to get food today, I've got
Well,
to survive today, that doesn't even like,
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
right.
When
So
all of those
basic
are taken
needs,
care of.
yeah. Then you have these other problems, which it's like the craziest like contradiction. It's like the more prosperous a society is, the more likely they are to be sad, depressed, and commit suicide. It's just like crazy when you think about it.
Oh, what a wonderful way to end this.
Well, I thought you were going to go through your biggest challenge right now. We don't get that. We have to wait for the next
Yeah,
podcast.
it's a teaser.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
So we're taking an E on sadness.
I'm gonna go up and I'm going to take a nice hot shower that no one could have taken advantage of 100 years ago.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Henny.